I suspect that Mary's visit to Elizabeth would rank very high if we polled Catholics about their favorite gospel scenes. Many of the greatest Western artists have depicted the scene. The cousins are sometimes poor peasants, and at other times, Renaissance aristocrats. How old were they? I'm pretty sure that the pregnant Mary was 13 or 14. We have to guess Elizabeth's age, perhaps around 50. The scene is domestic, intimate, and tranquil. The only disturbance is the leaping of John in his mother's womb as he experiences eschatological joy at the presence of the longed-for Messiah. And Elizabeth's words to her young cousin interpret for the reader what is going on. She declares that Mary is blessed and that Jesus is blessed. That is, both are honorable in God's eyes. She tells us that she considers the new life in Mary's womb to be her Lord, giving expression to the early Christian affirmation of Jesus' divinity after the resurrection. Elizabeth has been given to understand that John's leaping in her womb is Lucan eschatological joy, akin to the joy announced by the angel to the shepherds who were in the fields near where Jesus was being born. Mary is silent in the early part of the scene. She makes no declarations about John and Elizabeth's womb. In fact, John's name is not mentioned in the text. All attention is on Mary and her soon-to-be-born child. All along, Luke, the evangelist, has told the parallel stories of Jesus and John with attention to detail. At each step of the way to their births, it is made clear to the reader that John is subordinate to Jesus. When Zechariah raises the question of his advanced age with the angel, he is punitively silenced. When Mary asks the angel how she can conceive since she has not engaged in sexual intercourse, she receives clarifying responses. John's birth is accompanied by the lifting of the punishment. Jesus' birth is accompanied by ecstatic angels who are delighted to share their joy with untrustworthy shepherds. The coup de grace comes when Jesus is baptized in the Jordan in Luke's gospel. It is mentioned in the passive voice. John's name isn't even mentioned. What is going on here? Scholars have come to the conclusion that after Jesus' resurrection and the beginnings of the Jesus movement stimulated by his Easter appearances and the outpouring of the Holy Spirit, there was another group that already existed that entered into competition with the followers of Jesus for adherence, the followers of John the Baptist. There are still such followers in our world now, still. Good old religious competition where two groups struggle to gain converts to their system of beliefs and way of life. And religious competition is morally ambiguous at best. This is the unseemly backstory to the parallel tales about Jesus and John. All the efforts to subordinate John make sense in the light of this competition. I am not he is another, whose sandals I am not worthy to untie. He must increase, I must decrease. Another will come who is greater than I, who will baptize you with fire. Jesus' message and conduct were very different from John's. This explains why in prison, John sends emissaries to Jesus to ask if he is the one who is the promised one, or should they wait for someone else. This is very poignant, isn't it? John seems to have died a disappointed prophet, confused by the fact that Jesus, unlike himself, preached good news, joy-giving news, and ate and drank with sinners, and was fine about being taken for a sinner to win sinners back to God and to their own authentic humanity. It has ever been thus, hasn't it? God's good creation, God's self-communicating love and care for God's creation, which we call grace, and sin and moral ambiguity in all their forms, great and small. My most profound theological insight is that we are all walking bags, mixed bags. I don't get more sophisticated than that. We are, and our universe is mixed, always been a mixture of varying degrees of those three primary realities. God's good creation, God's grace, suffusing us as author, and sin and moral ambiguity. This Advent isn't any different, is it? Right now, we are surrounded by unknowns about the severity of the Omicron virus, about Russia's intentions in the Ukraine, about the fate of the Build Back Better plan, about the stability of our healthcare system under such enormous pressure, about the duration of inflation, about whether we will find a right way, a true, authentic way to deal with the immigrants and refugees at our borders, about whether we will survive climate change, about whether white supremacy will remain as strong as it is now in our country, about who will control Congress in a year, about whether schools will be completely virtual next semester. The list has only begun. It is precisely in the midst of these unknowns that we need to take our Advent stand, to hold steady, to taste and feel the unknowns in all their power, to not run away from them using our drug of choice, to feel the discomfort of it all, and let the discomfort be an opportunity to lean into the Christ who is totally present to us and to our unknowns, our impasses. Wherever Christ is, or better, wherever we lean into Christ, the present one, there is fresh possibility, even if you and I cannot imagine it at the moment. If we lean into Christ in urgent prayer, the box we feel we are confined in opens up. God doesn't intervene, God doesn't tinker with our situation, but God is giving us all the energies and resources of matter, psyche, and spirit, in giving us our Christ life and the faith, love, and hope that flow out of the Christ life. All this created reality, grounded fully in God's source of all, gives us resources beyond ourselves if we but open ourselves in neediness unto the Lord. It's not only Mary upon whom God looks with favor. It's not only Mary for whom God is the mighty one is doing great things. It's not only Mary who can rest in God's mercy. Rejoice, friends, because our Advent neediness is the meeting tent where the Lord waits for us.